Good afternoon. We're back, and we have an amazing panel here. We're going to look at well, they're going to look at customer journey management. How to really drive and get satisfaction and growth from that. But I'm going to introduce the panel's moderator, Doron Egozi from Citi Innovation, who will introduce the panel. So without further ado, thank you guys for joining us, and look forward to a great panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johnny, and thank you everybody for being here today. And I'm really looking forward to hear what the panelists had to say regarding the customer journey management. We have very interesting people here today. So let's start with Ilan Bomzon from Earnix. Ilan, can you just say a few words and let them know you?
Yeah, so I'm Ilan Bomzon. I work for Earnix. Earnix provides a platform for insurers and banks to serve their customers better while reaching their business goals faster through a strictly governed rating, pricing, and product personalization platform. My goal in life and aim is to help banks, mainly incumbent banks, reveal the value from pricing and personalization. Yep.
So you actually help your customers help their customers. Your direct customers are the banks.
Yeah, that's
okay.
precise. Yeah, perfect. We help our customers help their customers.
Great. And Clare Gambardella from Zopa. Hi, Clare.
Hello. Hi. So Zopa was originally the first peer-to-peer lending fintech about 15 years ago, but now we are a neobank operating in the UK. We focus across the product set, but predominantly in lending, so credit cards, loans, auto loans, and also in savings. And our goal is to help our customers to make financial choices that they feel great about and to get better value and an easier experience.
Nice. And you guys really evolved and changed the way what you can give your customers. It will be really interesting to see how you did that. And Jake Levant from Lightico. Hi, Jake.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me. I work with banks and other regulated institutions to make their customer interactions easier. Oftentimes, they're required to get signatures, papers, bureaucracies, and they ask people to fax, come into branches between 8 and 8:10. We make it all easy. We take care of the ID, the regulatory components, the verification, the forms, the signatures, the consents, all simply directly to their mobile phone. No app, no portal, none of that nonsense, just simple swipes and selfies. So we are fortunate to work with some of the largest banks and some of the most dynamic lenders and insurers and telcos around the world. And I help them digitally transform overnight, which is a blessing because people have been talking about this for decades, but we can help them get it done quickly.
So you take care of the parts that people hate the most.
Oh, yeah. We can find other parts. If people want to go and line up and wait for a branch to open, we can also find a way to do that. That's not our core set. We actually help people do things easily and intuitively, but we can find other stumbling blocks. I'm sure we can find a way.
Nice. Thank you. And we have Kirill from Salesforce.
Yes, hi everyone. I hope you hear me well because I had some connection problems, so I hope the connection is right. I'm Cyril Cymbler. I'm leading the financial services practice for EMEA at Salesforce. And Salesforce, what is our role? Our role is to to connect financial institutions with their customers. It should be individual customers. It should be, of course, a B2B business and even B2B2C, where we are redesigning with our customers all the journeys which are allowing them to connect them together. It could be something related to marketing transformation, but also to internal transformation, how to improve and to break the silos between the front, the middle, the back office, and the customers at the end. How I can have a single source of truth to improve all the customer journeys in a financial institution. This is our challenge, and this is where we are going where we are working hard on it.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So interesting for me is actually, and let's for now think about your clients as the customers, because we used to think about end clients and end users, but the ones that are going to use that are actually your direct clients. What is actually the role of the digital client journey in your company, and how does it really affect the business?
Well, I think that this has been clear over the last year, whereas digital was something that we talked about for decades, and we just said, oh, it's nice to have. The last year, people didn't have an alternative. They were locked down, and they just couldn't get to the branches during certain hours, and it wasn't safe, and they were scared, and all these different things. So it became mission critical. And what was interesting is a nice to have became a fundamental operational requirement. And so banks who had, sat on the fence came running. I met a bank on Friday. We had them launched on Monday because the imperative of getting things done. And so they saw the centrality for digitizing customer-facing components. I think that's the hope. If we can find something good in this mess of the last year, is that we've seen that we don't have to be afraid, and that we can make some of these moves. Some of them were right a year ago, some of them were right 10 years ago, but this was the impetus to really move quickly. And now that they've tasted this and some of the values of digitizing certain components, they want to continue in this way. So too does their customer base. They want to continue in this digital format. Obviously, we're dealing with high trust interactions here. So banks need to have that dynamic of, there's a human advisory component, but with certain aspects, the people just want to get things done. They don't need to have they come into the branch or mail this or find a fax machine. They don't need the F word.
I think there's also a really important underlying benefit to having that deeply integrated digitalization as well, because the experience is one thing, but I think we've also seen, with the market changing so quickly, more traditional players maybe struggling to be able to assess risk in that market, understand consumer situations, especially in lending. And in the UK, for sure, what we saw was that there was less access for customers to certain products, whether that was loans, whether it was cards in some cases, as people tried to kind of keep up. And I think for us at Zopa, because we have that kind of stitched into our DNA, we could continue lending, continue serving customers. And I think that point around front end is super important, but I also think that deep back end integration has a huge customer value as well in this environment.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add to that on the back office, and I think what COVID accelerated is that whole heavy lifting that is required on the back office. And we see a lot of our customers actually taking on this task has suddenly become urgent of how do we actually automate this whole back office process, which includes the risk, the credit decisioning, the KYC, that all needs to be automated for the customer. I mean, my rule of thumb now today is that if you can't sell something over the phone, you're not going to be able to sell it.
Yeah, and just to add something, just to give you some figures and numbers on that, you know that for the banks in Europe, 80% of financial institutions have started their digital transformation. But if you look 1 year after the start, only 14% made significant progress, which is quite low. Years after, only 3% of financial institutions have been successful in their digital transformation. And you know why? It's just because there are a lot of silos within the company, and there is not a single source of truth that you can leverage, and where it's possible that everyone in the company and together with the customer should share at the same time the same info, and just at the end to improve the productivity and the time to market for a new product, for example.
You know, it's interesting that you are quoting the banks and how successful their digital transformation is. I've seen also how consumers and customers think about the digital stance of their banks and credit unions and other institutions. So there's a lot of patting on the back as we're doing a good job. But if you ask our boss, our communal bosses, the end customers, well, they're voting with their wallets. They're going to open new accounts where it's easy. So we may be doing better than before, but if you talk to our bosses, they think that we have a long way to go. But what was encouraging is that we could see how fast we can make some significant moves. And I think that some of my friends here on this panel have already articulated that the last year has seen that the gap between expectations and where we are has started to narrow. But let's not kid ourselves. There's a lot more work to be done.
I think it's a really important point as well around the fact that expectation is also always shifting and not always set by our industry. And as Jake said, I think, it's easy to think we're doing better, but actually expectation for customers is set by, the Amazons of the world, the deliveries of the world. That's the kind of ease of experience that they expect. They're not looking only at the finance industry to see who's doing it, better than who. And so it's important that we always move against that bar rather than an industry bar.
If you mention the actual our bosses, as you said, Jake, I like it. I think it's so true, and sometimes we forget to think about it that way. But how do you stay connected with your bosses in the way that you're working to make sure that you're really following their needs?
I think that that's the advantage of being a younger company, is that we are born into a more customer-facing world, whereas many of our immediate clients have a legacy that they need to manage, that they have thousands of branches, that they've got infrastructure and legacy challenges, and so they're not as astute, or they're much of, we call it drag points, by doing the things they want to do, and even by paying attention to the things they want to do, because they have all this history. Now, I think that we have the opportunity to work exactly in collaboration with them and saying, okay, you actually have certain things which are assets. Let's not talk about the things that you're missing. You have financial power, you have brand power, you have financial tools and capabilities. What you may be missing is some of the consumer insights. And I think that that's where you have an advantage for, we'll say, the digital native companies, like some of who are on this panel, is that you can take some of the best of this world. It can't be that the financial institution, what they're good at is finances. And what they're less good at is probably about, well, how do you reach a consumer in a swipe and a selfie type of language? How do we do that? And what's the next thing? Well, I think that that's where it comes to smart collaboration between the ecosystem. And it's not just in finance, but we'll see it in different areas as well, that someone's a better insurer, and they're better at telco, and they're better at this, and they're better at that. But I think that this is the opportunities to find the right partners who understand both the assets that the financial institutions bring to the table, and then an acknowledgement of some things are partnered and some things don't have to be built in-house. And that is an interesting dialogue that we're having with our customers, which are the banks, and what they are doing, what they're in a better place to do versus what some of the folks in this roundtable are able to do.
And I think from a Earnix perspective, it's the quick ROI. At the end of the day, we're dealing with analytics and offering customers better products and prices that suit them. And what we're discovering that very quickly, by actually understanding the bananas and the apples under the data, we're able to provide value very fast. So the bosses are seeing a lot of, well, my customers' bosses are seeing a lot of value that is achieved very fast just by unclosing a lot of the low-hanging fruits that sit beyond the data.
I think it's really important as well that that data is sort of owned and accessible to everyone, and that kind of partly speaks to org structure as well. So I think often big organizations have a ton of data and a ton of customer understanding, but it's extremely fragmented, and it's very hard to pull that together into meaningful innovation or insights. And so, I think that the way that you structure the organization, the way that you make customer understanding the responsibility of everybody, and the way that you make sure that common data sets are kind of accessible to different people in different teams is really important as well. I think that often becomes the big barrier, is creating silos and making it hard for people to put the pieces together.
Yeah, I totally agree. I getting to know a bank, like a big bank from the inside. I truly understand what you guys are talking about, and how hard is it to to break this silos in an organization that is so big.
I think that this is where we have technology that can come in, because the silos in the information, we don't have to look at this as a deep tech, core overhaul. This is the good news. We're software as a service. We know how to do things agilely, where we can take all the goodies in the back and bring it through an API economy to the front. And so we can be that conduit to pull in and then shuttle across. We don't have to be constrained by legacy systems. And this is why digital transformation has been sullied over the last 10 years, is because we assume that it's back there, but we have the technologies to bring it up here. So we can shuttle things around much more agilely and break that siloed mentality. And that's where we can actually see the fastest ROI, where we don't have to embark on 5-year programs. We can actually see return and impact within the week, because you're taking the smarts in the back and you're making it accessible in the front. That's where you're actually finally going to get proof positive of what you've done to date.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think one thing which is very important is to have in mind that what is the final goal of all the financial institutions and the banks is to decrease their cost to income ratio. And how to do that, of course, is by the way, how I can increase the productivity of the bank. And the productivity of the bank, what does it mean? It means I want to reduce administrative tasks for front office agents or for all my relationship manager, for example. And to do that, I need to digitize some journey in order to help them to gain in terms of productivity. If I decrease the time spent by RM dealing with some specific, I would say, back office task and administrative task, at the end, they will see more customers. And if they see more customers, it means that they will drive more business. And I think this is really something that you can find in every annual report of the big bank, is how I can, again, increase the cost to income ratio by digitizing the internal process. And so when we're talking about digital journeys, it's not only the journey directly to the customers, but it is also internal each bank, how I can digitize all my business process between the front office, the middle office, and the back office, to have one, I would say, smooth and seamless process. And at the end, everybody will find his interest in that.
So I want to ask you to tell us about something you're kind of especially proud of in your product or your company's customer journeys that you think makes a difference. It can be a small feature, it can be a big thing.
Very difficult to answer to this question, Doron, to be honest, because the offer is so wide at Salesforce that I cannot answer to exactly to this question. What I can give you as an example is a project that we have, that we are really proud of. Is for example, we have driven together with some partners the digital transformation and the marketing transformation of BBVA, the big Spanish bank, and we had some great results. We have designed in a little bit more than 1 year, more than 170 digital customer journeys. It's not only digital, by the way, it's omni-channel. What does it mean? It means that you can start a specific journey in one device and to end it in another device, which is something quite amazing. When we have started that with them, it was 5 years ago. So can you imagine, it was really disruptive at this period. So the second thing at BBVA is we have reduced dramatically, I would say, the number of leads received in the to-do list of relationship managers. But we have increased, I would say, their qualification. So it means that how they can do more with less. it's very important because in this difficult period where you have cost tensions, the idea is how to improve the productivity of the relationship manager and to allow time to transform the leads, to increase the transformation rate of the leads they're receiving their to-do list. And at the end, we were quite satisfied of all the results we have obtained with BBVA in transforming their digital customer journey.
I would say for Zopa, it would be our origination journey. So I think if you think about lending products, the three things that are most important to customers are certainty of whether they'll be able to access the product, speed at which they can do it, and having a lot of transparency over what they're going to pay. We pioneered real rates, so a customer sees the rate and the fees that they'll pay in a personalized way before they sign up. We show pre-approval so that they know exactly whether or not they'll be eligible before they sign up. And I think, most impressively, generally our applications take less than 3 minutes. And what that means is that we have one of the highest conversion rates in the industry. 80% of those applications are never touched by a human, so they're entirely automated. Consumer would get the money for lending mostly within 2 hours. And I think that's a great example of how looking across a bunch of touch points in the application process, in the dispersal process, ladders up to a journey which is really differentiated, but not only is differentiated, but really tackles material customer pain points. If you look at some of the kind of old processes that are in the market, it can take 7 days for a customer to understand whether they're going to be accepted and exactly what rate they're going to pay. And in that context, that's truly transformative. And so that's one of the things that I'm most proud of and that we hear most positive feedback on from customers.
Can I ask one more question, because it's interesting? So the 3 minutes that it takes to get approved, was that a goal? I mean, did you guys see that as, I want to get, I don't know, under X minutes, and everybody worked for that goal, or how did it go?
I mean, it was a reasonably purposeful goal, and it was iterative over time. There are two reasons that speed's important. One is customer drop-off, which I've already touched on, but the other one is that we integrate very highly with aggregators, and the speed at which you can return a decision is something which impacts the way that you're rated on those aggregator tables. So for us, it also has a business impact as well. So yes, that was a very purposeful focus for us.
Thank you.
Well, we've worked with some of the leaders in the industry, and it's not that we're coming to places that they haven't thought about digital journeys. We come into places that they've done that. But it's up to us to show the Amazon impact and how they can be not just the best bank, but how the delta between them and Amazon is, if Amazon were to be a bank, because they're going to be a bank. And that's what the alternatives are. So we need to show them how they can actually get there quickly. And it doesn't have to be a big project. So when we show them the opportunity in efficiency, the opportunity in conversion, the opportunity in customer delight, and we don't leave it in terms of theoretical, oh, this feels good. We show business and how we can make things economical, and we can show an ROI impact of being the Amazonification of their already somewhat digital bank. Then we see the eyes light up, and we can see that, they used to be happy maybe with a 2-day or 3-day turnaround. They used to be happy with 10 touch points on a loan, but we can show that it doesn't have to be done that way. We can show that we can streamline these, and we can almost make one-click banking. And I think that that's what we can see in our local environment here. We see the start of just digital-only banks. And there's advantages to that and that, but they don't have to make that compromise. The competition, we've seen it industry by industry. We see no longer is there a Blockbuster, there's only a Netflix. So if we don't start thinking about Netflix, it's coming. It comes in terms of insurance when we have a Lemonade-esque player, and the next insurance that's taking it, and people are shaking in the booties. So we have to start equipping the banks who are already digitally minded to be digitally action-oriented. And I think that when we come into a leader, not just a laggard, that's an easy story. Coming to a leader, we can say, time to raise the bar. And not raise the bar theoretically, but we can start showing the business impact of that. Then there's a lot of excitement. And so then there's a little bit of education here, where we are living digital this. Well, there's some trade-offs. So we need to share and have that discussion as to what the impact is, because they're managing many things. There's lots of major undertakings that any financial institution has right now. And so your little digital doodad has to make sense in terms of their priority list. And the good news is that it does. But we have to educate and articulate in a relevant fashion such that they can prioritize and we can do deals together. That's the excitement. There's enough here, and the bar is, there's enough of a delta even amongst the leaders here, certainly amongst the laggards, that we can help a lot more folks. We have to think a little bit differently, and we have to help them understand the opportunity.
And I would relate to Jake's point. Again, I think one of the big points, proud points of Earnix is our ability. We take models, we take data, and we're able to operationalize it pretty quickly towards offering better prices and offering better products. And I'd say taking customers through that journey of starting to be more data-centric and starting to look at data, and while educating them so on the techniques on how to do it, so showing ROI, and then start building that way, that whole journey, and actually curving a way that is very, very physical, and they can actually see the way, and actually taking it to how they can improve customer journeys is huge, and a huge proud source of proud for Earnix. And I think what gets me going is when I see how customers start looking at the platform and see how they can leverage it to additional decisions, to additional, like automating approvals of loans, or like you said, and using the platform for doing such things is again, it's a huge level. But actually curving a practical path that can show them the way of, without using data, how very quickly you can use data, gradually build up the journey to value.
All right, thank you.
I think that's I think we're out of time. It's a shame, because that was amazing. Thanks so much to have. It was amazing to have such 4 thought leaders in the same place at the same time. Really appreciate it. That we could, as I say, we could have gone on for a lot longer. But I know you are important people and you've got other things to do. So I just want to thank you very much for an enthralling discussion, for sharing your thoughts and insights. Really, really appreciate it. If the audience can also show appreciation, we've got a little